Welcome back to History of Simple Things. Today's topic comes from one of our viewers, Arnold Kapal, 6933. Thanks for the suggestion. You asked, why is a rabbit called a bunny? Is there a difference? If you've ever spotted fluffy spring decorations, unwrapped a chocolate Easter treat, or read a children's book filled with long ears and twitching noses, you've probably heard both words used like they mean the same thing. But are they actually different animals? Is one just a baby version of the other? Or is this all just a story of how language evolves over time? So, where did these two names come from? And how did bunny become the softer, cuter cousin of rabbit? Stick around as we hop into the fascinating word history behind these two terms, right here on History of Simple Things. The word rabbit hasn't always existed in English. In medieval England, the animal we now call a rabbit was actually referred to as a coney, spelled C-O-N-E-Y. This word comes from the Old French conel, which traces back to the Latin word cuniculus. Over time, however, coney began to fall out of favor. By the 14th century, the word rabbit started appearing in English, but interestingly, it originally referred only to young rabbits. Adult animals were still called conies. Gradually, though, rabbit replaced coney entirely. By the 18th century, rabbit had become the standard term for both young and adult animals. Scientifically speaking, rabbits belong to the order Lagomorpha, not rodents, even though many people assume they are rodents. The European rabbit, known as Oryctolagus cuniculus, is the species that became widespread across Europe and later the world through domestication and introduction. This species is also the ancestor of most domestic rabbits today. So rabbit became the proper zoological term. But where did bunny come from? Unlike rabbit, the word bunny didn't start as a scientific or formal name. It actually began as a term of endearment. The word likely evolved from bun, a Scottish term used in the 16th and 17th centuries for a rabbit or squirrel. Over time, the diminutive form bunny emerged. In English, adding a y or ie sound to the end of words often makes them sound smaller or cuter, like dog becoming doggy. By the 18th century, bunny was being used affectionately, especially when talking to children. It wasn't meant to distinguish a different species or age, it was simply a softer, more playful word. That's why today when people say bunny, they're usually referring to a rabbit in a cute or childlike context. There is no biological difference between a rabbit and a bunny. A bunny is simply a rabbit, just described in a more affectionate way. A common belief is that a bunny is a baby rabbit, but that's not technically correct. A baby rabbit actually has a specific name. It's called a kit or kitten. Yes, just like a baby cat. A group of baby rabbits is called a litter, and they are born in a nest known as a form or a burrow, depending on the species. So if someone says, "Look at the baby bunny," they're using bunny casually, not scientifically. The correct term would be kit. This confusion likely persists because bunny sounds small and adorable, which naturally makes people associate it with babies. Language often follows emotion rather than biology. One of the biggest reasons bunny became so popular is cultural tradition, especially the Easter bunny. The concept of the Easter bunny originated in German folklore. German immigrants brought the tradition to America in the 1700s. The character was known as the Osterhase, an egg-laying hare. Over time, the hare became simplified into a rabbit-like character, and in English-speaking countries, it became known as the Easter Bunny. Notice something interesting here. The original folklore involved a hare, not a rabbit. Hares and rabbits are related but different animals. Hares are generally larger, have longer ears, and are born with fur and open eyes, while rabbits are born hairless and blind. Despite that biological distinction, the name Easter Bunny stuck. The softer word bunny fit perfectly with children's celebrations, chocolate candies, and springtime imagery. From then on, bunny became deeply embedded in pop culture, especially in media aimed at children. Think of characters like those in animated films, greeting cards, plush toys, and storybooks. Rabbit sounds neutral. Bunny sounds lovable. There's also a psychological reason we prefer bunny in certain contexts. Words influence perception. Rabbit can sound clinical or even wild. Rabbits are agricultural animals, laboratory animals, and sometimes pests in certain regions. But bunny, that word instantly softens the image. Marketers understand this very well. If you're selling stuffed animals, children's pajamas, or spring decorations, you're much more likely to label them as bunny-themed rather than rabbit-themed. The word feels warmer and safer. It's similar to how we use kitty instead of cat when speaking to children. The meaning doesn't change, but the emotional tone does. Language evolves not just because of science, but because of how people feel about things, and in this case, affection won. At the end of the day, there is no biological difference between a rabbit and a bunny. Rabbit is the proper term for the animal, used in scientific and formal contexts. Bunny is simply an affectionate nickname that evolved over centuries, shaped by language, culture, and emotion. The journey from coney to rabbit and from bun to bunny shows how flexible English can be. Words shift meanings, gain new associations, and sometimes completely replace older terms. So the next time someone asks whether a bunny is different from a rabbit, you'll know the answer. They're the same animal. The difference isn't in biology, it's in tone. And maybe that's what makes language so fascinating. Even something as simple as a fluffy animal with long ears carries centuries of history in its name. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.